Hi, I'm Dr. Kim Jackson.
And I'm Dr. Tara Mantler. We're here to tell you about a very exciting research project titled Why Does It Hurt So Much? Understanding Women's Experiences of Breastfeeding-Related Pain. This project was funded by Women's Exchange.
Aside from some rare exceptions, breastfeeding is considered the most optimal source of infant nutrition with protective health effects for both mother and child. Despite the World Health Organization recommendation of exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life, many women discontinue breastfeeding well before this time. Breastfeeding pain, although not often discussed, is one of the biggest contributors to breastfeeding cessation. However, there's minimal literature exploring postpartum women's experiences with this pain. As such, our purpose was to explore the experience and meaning of what women's breastfeeding pain in a gendered, social, and cultural context.
We interviewed 14 consenting postpartum breastfeeding women who had or were having breastfeeding-related pain, who were receiving postpartum support through our collaborators, the Middlesex London Health Unit. Participants were interviewed for between 1 and 1.5 hours using a semi-structured interview guide exploring women's experiences with breastfeeding, women's experiences of breastfeeding-related pain, with consideration given to concepts such as gender, culture, and perceptions of motherhood. Employing a feminist intersectional lens, data were analyzed by the research team to identify key emergent categories and themes.
Through our analysis, it became evident that a woman's decision to continue or stop breastfeeding was dependent on many factors. The woman's experience of breastfeeding was impacted by her context, which included personal and social variables, in addition to things that influenced her to breastfeed and the challenges she experienced breastfeeding. To illustrate, we have Jen to tell us about her breastfeeding context.
My mom breastfed me and all my siblings, and I was the oldest and grew up in a large family, and it was just normal. It is just what you...
With this context as a backdrop, women's experiences of pain were influenced by her thoughts and feelings about pain.
I felt like I was mad at her because I was like, you're not latching properly and you're hurting mommy. I felt like a terrible mother for getting mad at her because it's not her fault, right?
The thoughts and feelings surrounding the pain experience led moms to action including a maximization of enablers or facing and working through barriers.
I was so fearful. I just wanted to avoid feeding her. But I went to the breastfeeding clinic and they were able to give me helpful techniques.
The actions that women took ultimately led to two outcomes: a continuation of breastfeeding, which often resulted in feelings of pride and success, or a cessation of breastfeeding, which often led to feelings of guilt and dissatisfaction.
I felt so frustrated. And then once I got through it and was able to continue breastfeeding, I felt happy. I am stronger now than I thought I was.
In addition to these key themes, a majority of women reported that they had wished someone had told them that they might anticipate some breastfeeding pain. Many of the women expressed that just like they had prepared themselves mentally for labor, if they had been aware that this phenomenon existed and was common, they could have better prepared themselves for it. Currently, pain during breastfeeding is regarded as abnormal, and as a result, women felt like they were doing something wrong or were failing at breastfeeding. Those supporting breastfeeding women, including partners, family, and healthcare providers, need to be aware that women might benefit from being provided anticipatory guidance so that in spite of the painful experience, they will have supports in place to help them and in the end can get through it to achieve their breastfeeding goals.